Hi everyone. Today is Monday, January the 6th. My name is Anne-Marie Band, and this is the Moneyball Morning Report for the Benzinga Pro platform. As you know, every Monday we take a wide-angle look at the way the charts are moving. This time, I think we'll also look at a monthly very quickly to see what's going on. Our levels really in the ES and the NQ are the same as they have been. For the YM, I did have to adjust one or two of them, so here's what we're staring down. On the monthly formations, we are still clearly in a buy the dip space. You can see our momentum indicator has stayed here a long time. Notice how long it can stay here. This one stayed up top here from November of 2020 all the way to February of 2022. So this is no kind of indicator that says, oh, it's oversold or overbought and now we need to start selling. No, trend still master and commander. And we are holding the moving average that I like to watch here, just walking the edge up, telling us that dips are buy zones. This week, we've got the employment numbers. We've got an FOMC minutes event. Just a number of things going on. Thursday, the markets are closed for Jimmy Carter. And what else do we have? The following week is going to be pretty big. And of course, what we're looking at is the beginning of the earnings. And we've got the inauguration. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. We could have ourselves a little bit of a sideways week. But you can see the month says if we come into the low of the prior months, we're going to see buying pressure. The big thing is going to be able to get up over 60.51. From a weekly perspective, we're still in that box that I drew, right? I'm seeing a lot of buyers really trying to hold the region near 59.64. That's something that I certainly will be watching. In terms of a support action event that says, hey, can I buy this? I believe we are on the way up to test 60.51 this morning. Going to be maybe a little choppy, but what we are seeing is buying coming from underneath, but selling coming from above. Notice the Keltner bands are moving in different directions up here in the latest segment. This is moving down, that is moving up. It tells us that resistant edges are very likely nearby. Not that they can't press higher, of course they can, but the first ones there are going to be pressing lower at the first pass. They're going to try and short it up at the top here at that 61.10, 61.05 area. All right, from an hourly perspective, we can see that things look very bullish. I do believe we are going into the liquidity areas. We have a narrow, shallow volume event right here that could move us into 60.71, but you can clearly see dips or buy zones. Here's the opening hour. We're well above it. As long as we stay above that, we're very likely to have upside pressure. Do I think we have a little inventory correction at the open? Yes. So I think there are buying pressures that might be easier to see down at maybe the 60.15-ish zone, maybe even 6,000 if we're lucky, right? It'll come in, dance around the VWAP and then continue higher, but we are a little long in the tooth. And so notice on these much tighter time frames, we don't stay a long time up here. So what we have to look for is a failure to hold higher. That tells us we've got a fade coming that will give us the next upside buy. All right, let's take a look at the NQ. We'll look at the SPY and the Qs at the end of the session. Let's go to the monthly on the Qs. You can see very strong, right? Very, very strong, holding key support zones. If it comes down anywhere, I'm going to shift this number down just a wee bit. If it comes down into 20,984, that sort of thing, they've been really buying it up. We have a selling tail right here, but it's been negated since we got back up over 21,300, 21,350. And so now the goal is, can we get back to the top of the range, which is 22,152. I don't know why that's not locking, whatever the reason might be. So clearly dips or buy zones from here Keltner channels moving in the same direction. Let's go to the weekly. Looks a little bit noisier, but at the end of the day, what it's telling you is you can ignore the noise. If the dips are deep and you're coming into old resistance that holds as new support, you've got yourself a buy zone. And that's exactly what's happening here. 20,974, still the region that everyone seems to buy. Notice Keltner band a little bit downward on the upside, meaning that the bounces higher are likely to come into a resistance event at the first pass. And so if we break out and then pull back and hold this area, right now is a very critical zone. This 21,760-ish, we really are about 30 points away from it. But this is a very important line. If we get up over it, sellers are going to have to buy to cover, and then they're going to exhaust. So if you take the long on the breakout, watch out for the exhaustion pattern, particularly as momentum is shifting to the downside. If we go straight to the hourly, we can see that bullish pressure still holding. We're looking for higher highs and higher lows. It should come into these liquidity patches. 760 could run all the way up to to 810. Low volume node, but as I mentioned, this region up here, very, very important. What we want to do is, as this is high, moving higher here, we want to see the failure to hold higher, the pullback into old support, and then the failure to break a new high. That gives us the rotation downward. So far, nothing doing. Pullbacks into value area high, giving us the long action event. 650 looking like a support edge, but the VWAP from Friday is all the way down here at 21,396. Listen, we've got a gamma level from Menther Q. This is one day max up here at 21,760-ish. We could blow past it, but I see this as a key reversal zone. Just me. But I'm going to have to watch for the formation to tell me that it is. And that means that I've got to sit on my hands for just a wee bit. All right, let's go to the YM. Let's take a look at the monthlies. All right, we're starting a brand new year candle, which is also something that we can talk about maybe some other time, but we've got all kinds of new candles being built. A new quarterly candle, a new monthly candle, a new yearly candle, everything moving. This is the area I had to add a line from our last video. This line was not here before. It's 42,530-ish. That's what I think it is. What are the traders trying to do? This inside candlestick, okay? From the monthly perspective, December was inside of November. And so now this candle here needs to tell us something. And so it'll either break down or break out or sit in the middle. But that's really what it is. So we can buy down here at the 42,538. We need to think about profit maybe at 43,580 and then profit again at 44,625. The dollar sort of fell off a cliff this morning, and it's got a lot of other things going on, but it could give the market a little bit of a boost. Hard to say. Really, really hard to say. A lot of shenanigans going on in the currency markets, but that's another story. For the YM on the weekly formation, we can see that we are making higher lows. And this could be just a little flag pattern. So if we're staring this down and we keep these lows and it comes down into our 42,538, the stop really could be a little wide. But if you give it about 30 ticks and it doesn't hold, step out of the way as this trend marker is moving a little bit down, and it could be headed to the other side of the Keltner band. I have no idea. My suspicion is that it's going to bounce, but we could be sitting in a space where we have ourselves a little bit of retracement. We're inside our middle box, and because we're inside this box, sort of portends to the fact that we hit the midline of that box, which is all the way down at 41,749. So you want to watch for that. That makes really the prettier bounce zone to me. It just does. I would like to see it clear 43,580 or make a decision there that says, okay, I'm going to move up, pull back, and hold my 43,300, or I'm going to push up, get to that 580, maybe even breach above it, but then collapse below it. That's going to give me my shorting formation. But again, it's pretty sideways, right? I've got upside pressure from below, downside pressure from above. Something's going to move, and trend says it's likely to be in the upward direction. Boy, that took a long time to talk through, didn't it? All right, let's see where the liquidity levels are. We're looking at this region here. Let me see where we are on. Okay, so we've got 43,221 and then 43,547. So that's a long way away. 43,221. We're right up at this space. Here is that liquidity level that this marker is coming in at. 43,250 looks really like a place it ought to fade, but it could be fading into a pullback action event, right? It could be moving up and then holding a channel that allows us to see more upside. We can clearly see some motion here down at the 43,000, right on top of all of this noise. It is the VWAP of the range, and the point of control is just above it. So I would not be surprised to see us come back into 43,000. That, to me, that looks like the place to stage a buy in this kind of event. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. It ran right up into 100,000. Let's take a look at the monthly on this one. Right? Still very bullish. We had that selling tail and then pullback action, and now we are up and over 98,100. To me, this 98,100 area, 98,500, you guys know if you've traded this, it moves in $100 clips at a time, so it can be very, very fast. This is a good area to look for long. We see buying pressure underneath, and we still see higher lows, though they can't hold. The big thing is going to be, can we close the following week up over 100,000? Okay, we have not had a week to do that yet, and certainly, I don't think we have. Oh, we have a month is what I meant, so sorry about that. Right now we're looking at a little bit of sideways pressure, and so that sideways pressure is showing us that we've got some lows here, but they're still getting bought up. 91,000, that's the line in the sand. And now they just have to get back up over this 100,000 area. Then they'll walk to 102 and then walk it up to 104 and then 105. And so I'm going to put something at the 105 level, 105,300. That's, 105,300. And so this gives me the range that it's in. It's a little bit messy, I will say, because we've got the downward Keltner above, the upward Keltner below. So dips, clearly buy zones, but the top edge tells us that there's sellers waiting up above there. If we go down to the hourly, we can see that it looks very bullish today. And it's got a little bit of a topping formation, but trend is always master and commander, and we've got these liquidity levels. Here's the thing. This is flat, and that is up, and all of this says dips or buys. Where you want to sell is the next question, right? Do you want to hold it to see if it breaks out? Absolutely. Absolutely. But if it doesn't, you've got to cut and run. That's just the nature of the game. You simply have to cut and run. From a momentum perspective, this is negative, divergent momentum. And so could you short this if you wanted to? Absolutely. You could try and short it at 101,000, maybe 100,800, something like that. But be light and tight because the trend is definitely upside, right? Volatility bands have 101,605 in the zone. So, but it's a wonderful trading vehicle. It truly is. Dips being buys make it very, very pretty. All right, let's take a look at oil. Oil continues to move to the upside. Let's look at the weeklies. We can see how hard it is for this chart to get out of this range, right? Take a look. Terrible downward momentum. This is a double bottom on momentum. It is a basing in the regular chart. Let's see what it looks like on the monthly. Yeah, it's still not out of the woods on the monthly, but I got to tell you, my gut says that this thing is going to run, right? It's been a minute since I paid $4 for a gallon of fuel. Listen, I'm not complaining, having spent several weeks in Europe over the fall and the winter. You know, I think Finland is paying almost $9 a gallon for premium, and so I'm not going to complain. So as we take a look at this, what we can see is we're holding the base. We've got lower highs, so it's do or die for oil traders right now. It's simply do or die. They have to get up over the 76 if they want to make it to 82 and higher. We could get a stall out here. My thought was, from a weekly perspective, these dips that were coming in at around that 67 area, they were absolutely buys, and they're still trying to break out. There are a lot of people that are still shorting. We had a note, I think Biden said that the Biden administration said that they were going to ban drilling someplace. Oil stores are down, and so, you know, it could push up just a wee bit. But what it's going to do is all the people who've been shorting the edges of this trend line, if it breaks through, they're going to have to buy to cover, and that could mean absolutely a monstrous move to the upside. See how the Keltner band is turning up here while it's down up here? It tells us there are a lot of sellers waiting there, and the VWAP for this range is up here at 77. My guess is that the charts are going to try and move in that general direction. Here we are breaking to the north. Pullbacks have been buy zones, old resistance, new support. Look at how long this stayed here before it began to break out. This is a great setup formation. Whether you use a 5-minute, a 15-minute, a 1-minute, whatever, just so long as you're in the direction of a relative trend, this kind of stabilization against moving averages help you pick the right side of the trade. And certainly, you know, this looks like it's got a little bit of a breakout. Now, it's got some technical divergence, but we know that from the bigger picture. We know that there are sellers up above us. So taking profit here and then letting it trail is the better bet in my mind. All right, finally, let's take a look at gold. Gold was running this morning because the dollar just fell off a cliff. And so here's what's going on with gold. First, let's go to the monthly. Here's our new month. We can see that we're in a price compression event. So a big move in gold is coming. I have no idea what direction it is. If I were a betting man, I would say a sharp move down first and then another sharp move up. But if we use general flag or pennant technical analysis, we should break in the direction of the pole. My thought is, of course, because I am bullish on metals this year, I think every dip ought to get bought. Now, the region for the dip to get bought is going to be a little messy. 2,500 would be fantastic. Actually, 2,430 would be great if it holds. Notice we went up into the 50% range here. So my suspicion is that we do get to 2,560. And if we get to 2,560, then 2,436 is going to be just as likely. And then the middle of this box will be 2,313 if the price action moves the way I think it ought to. Okay, right here, I'm going to delete this. What we've got is, look at this weekly. You can tell it's price compression, right? Weeks of motion sitting in, $40, $50 range. Something is getting ready to happen. Don't know what. But be prepared. It could be fast. Here's what's trend is telling us dips or buys. Momentum and volatility bands are telling us that even though the dips are buys, you got to take profit at the top of the range. Because it just does not have a ton of upside pressure until it does. Okay, so watch for that. I think once we get above 2,720, again, that becomes new support. Right now, 2,700 is literally what I see as resistance in general. But we are trying to base. and we have a bullish chart. So that's what we're seeing in general. Here it is in the break. That's a downward Keltner inside of all of this messy noise, right? So bounces to me, gonna have selling opportunities. The double top here near 2680, I like it as a short, but only into frontline support. If it doesn't give us that, I don't know, but you could also try the buy formation that's sitting at around 2640. That might give us a nice run for our money. Let's take a look at SPY. I feel like I've been talking for a year, but here we go. Take a look at the monthly. We're inside of December. No Santa rally this year, but, you know, I mean, the whole year has been a beast. Are we buying the dips? Absolutely. If it comes into this 578, listen, there's another number here at 575. That seems fairly likely to give us a bounce zone. We are walking the Keltner band from the monthly perspective. Look at how long a chart can walk a Keltner band. That's a long time. So don't get to be thinking, oh, it's getting to the top there. That means it's overbought. I got to sell. No, friends. If there is buying pressure underneath, charts will move up. If there's selling pressure above, charts will move down. That's just the way it works. Buying pressure comes from underneath, right? Selling pressure comes from above. And so here we see the selling pressure come in. The buyers can't hold it. It breaks down. We move into the area. And right now, the buyers are still in charge. Very, very much in charge. Now, from a weekly perspective, it could be that we are stumbling into some area of support. That 575 looks as good an area as me. What I'd like to see is old resistance come back in and test as new support. And then the price action gives us this little bit of sideways motion that allows us to head into the next step, right? But dips are buys today. They absolutely are. Here is our first trading hour at 4 o'clock. We're well above it. I think it probably opens up the same time as Europe, come to think of it. So 596, 598, all the way to 600 gives us dips as buys. Notice the rounding event. So could it be, you know, some kind of intraday cup and handle kind of thing? Maybe. But I like the dips to give me the buy zones. And Friday's closing VWAP is all the way down here at 590. We could have some inventory correction. That's moving very steeply. And so my thought is that steepness, we could have some inventory correction, which means you look for the deeper edges to go long. Qs, these guys have been doing great. Currently sitting above the close of November and December. This kind of, I don't know, this is some kind of bad candle. I don't know what kind of candle this is, but it's completely invalidated once you get up over the heavy congestion to the left. And it's sitting there. Now that's a monthly candle, so it'll have to close up there for it to have continued upside, but this looks pretty bullish, right? Wicks can be big, but the dips are giving us buying pressure, no doubt about it. So old resistance, new support, comes right in on the monthly at about 484. If we break down the next real support leg where we have clear old resistance, new support, they front run those short actions and jump in at 424. And then here they are again at 448. So those make some nice numbers to put on your chart to go, looks like I'm coming up on a buy zone. If we take a look at the weekly, a little bit more sideways, but again, you know, we're sort of dancing around. We've got the employment numbers, we got the FOMC coming, we got all kinds of things on the horizon. And so this feels a little natural, okay? We've got a Keltner band that is clearly up on both directions. So pullbacks are buy zones, and those buy zones are leading to higher highs. So once it gets to the old high, you take some profit, you put a trail on, and you're in great shape for price action if you're taking yourself a swing. right? Notice we're sitting in this kind of formation where we've got very bullish momentum, very, very bullish momentum, but it can't stay that way intraday. So the first thing we have to look for is the expansion to the north and then the failure to test higher. It might look like this and take 2 days to have a double top, and then it'll pull back into a support action that gives us another buying position. Right now, all the price action is really trying to move up into the 525/526 liquidity areas. And so dips clearly buy zones here, right? Absolutely clearly buy zones. So don't try to be a hero and get in front of any shorts right now. Just not the time. Let the formation tell you that the traders are getting ready to sell. Okay? All right, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you on the streams. Don't forget, midday, we've got the Benzinga Moneyball midday report, and I am back on Top Step, back after the holidays. So I'll see you all soon. Take care, and watch your risk.